Welcome to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still, as ever, the voice of the voiceless. Comment is the big conversation. It is the big debate, but only if you join in. That's why, above all, I need your telephone calls. 44208 601 4555. That's the number to call us. You call us, we'll call you back, establish a clear line. And remember, if you get on the TV with me, the volume on your TV has to be down at 0, or I'll have to move swiftly on. You can SMS the show also, 4478 00008066. We've got the comment wall back this evening. And you can email me at comment@presstv.co.uk. And this being 2014, you can also tweet me at comment_presstv. Now Livni's living it up, having a zippy Livni time in a central London hotel, courtesy of Britain's government. Because the last time that she was here, along with a certain Ehud Olmert, we managed to persuade the British judge to issue an arrest warrant for both of them. So in order that Livni could live it up in central London at a £50 a plate banquet this evening, David Cameron issued her a hall pass, a free pass to this great land of the free. A free country, except where it comes to Israeli politicians. Zippy Livni has the blood of thousands of Palestinian people on her hands. Her partner in crime in the so-called Operation Cast Lead, Ehud Olmert, is now behind bars. And I hope it will not be long before she joins him. She's a close friend, if you know what I mean, of Tony Blair, the so-called peace envoy. I don't know if he's a guest of honour at the Zionist Jamboree in central London this evening, but I do know that our man Isa is there, and we may be able to go over to him shortly and get a report from the front, where a lot of people have gathered to protest the presence of this pestilential war criminal in our midst. We're asking, when will Livni face justice? Will it be in this life or in the next? And we're asking, why has the UN Arab envoy Lakhdar Brahimi resigned, like Kofi Annan before him? You may recall that approximately 130,000 dead people ago, Kofi Annan brought forward a plan that would have been the solution to the political crisis that then existed in Syria. But of course, the friends of Al-Qaeda, the Western governments and their Gulf satrapies who pay for the carnage in the area, just didn't want Kofi Annan's plan to work. And it could be that Lakhdar Brahimi has resigned for the same reason. However, thanks to an Iranian solution, an Iranian brokered, negotiated solution, the crisis in Homs at least has come to an end. The Takfiri fanatics who were holed up in the city, holding hostage many civilians, have finally been prized from the stranglehold that they had on one remaining district in Homs. And they've been taken away under United Nations supervision out of the area. And as you can see, the people began to return. However, the carnage continues. At least 24, maybe 36 or more civilians were slaughtered near the Syrian-Turkish border this very day in an explosion. And the fighting continues, but there's no doubt about the direction of travel. And that may be why the UN Arab League envoy has quit, because the plot has failed. And maybe he doesn't want to be associated with the plot anymore. Who knows? It may be that he has simply, like most people, who know anything about it, concluded that the Syrian people have won, the foreign-backed fanatic Takfiris have lost, and however long it takes for them to leave, they will, of course, leave. And they'll leave back to the countries, like my own, which sent them there, encouraged them to go there, all over Europe, and indeed in North America and in Australasia. There are returning Takfiris already being described as the major security threat in their country. Well, you should have thought of that, Mr. and Mrs. Politician, before you sent them. Now, the Jumeirah Carlton, which is owned by a Persian Gulf satrapy, has provided the banquet this evening for Zippy Livni. It's the Jumeirah Carlton Tower Hotel. It's in Knightsbridge. Where else? And Isa Ali is down there for Press TV. Isa, how on earth is it going there?
Bigotry.
Isa, can you hear me?
Well, as you can see, and you can probably hear behind me, George, I can hear you very well, George. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but as you can probably see behind me and as you can hear, very chaotic scenes, very hectic scenes, very loud scenes. Obviously, to my left and behind me on this side, you can see hundreds of Palestinian protesters have come out to protest Livni's appearance here at this hotel, which is a fundraiser for the Jewish National Fund, which is raising money for the illegal settlements in Palestine itself. And on the other side of the road to my right, we can see some supporters of the Zionist state. And obviously they are outnumbered by I'd say a rota of about 3-1. And so very chaotic. The supporters of Israel have been trying to drown out the Palestinian supporters by playing music and shouting over the mic systems, but essentially, as you can hear, they're still in very good voice. And essentially what they've done is they've come to protest the invitation extended by this organization to Zippy Livni, and also the decision by the British government to give immunity to Zippy Livni, especially for her role in the attack on Gaza in 2009. And I'm joined by one protester here. Her name is Sadia, and she's come obviously to join the protesters. Ms. Sadia, why have you come here today?
I've come here today not as a Muslim, not as an Arab, but as a human that cares about peace and justice. This is not a Muslim issue, this is not an Arab issue, but this is an issue that affects everybody. This is injustice. This is a war crime that's been committed by the Zionist state of Israel. This is not about Muslims against Jews. This is about injustice, and this is about something that we all must stand for, okay? And you look around and you don't just see Muslim people, Arab people, you see people from across the world, and this is why we are here today to say shame, shame, shame on you. Thank you very much.
And as you can see, very impassioned the speech there by Ms. Sadia, but also behind me, as she mentioned, we have many people from the Jewish community here, and some of the people from the Zionist side were making, quite frankly, anti-Semitic slurs against them, telling them that they were not real Jews and calling them self-hating Jews. So really a lot of vitriol coming against the people on this side. Joe, I'm not sure if you can hear me, George, as you can see, it's really getting loud here. We're expecting we're expecting actually Livni to arrive at any point. The police presence here is now much larger than it was earlier in the evening. I would say there are now over 100 police officers here, not just to keep the two sides apart, because by and large it has been very peaceful, but to keep any protesters away from Livni when she arrives.
Well, stay on the line for a minute or two in case we can catch her arrival, because that would be something. She has been afraid to come to Britain, of course, over these last few years because of the success that we had in persuading a British judge that there was prima facie a case of war crimes against her, and he actually issued a warrant for her arrest. Since when the British government has, number one, changed the law to insist that the cabinet minister, the Attorney General, must give his consent to such a move in the future. But also she's been granted diplomatic immunity. Tell us about that. How's that going down in the crowd?
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that. Many of the protesters I spoke to, many of the people from the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign have made that very point you've made, which is that the tide of opinion in this country has changed, and that the pressure put on the British government to turn its policies and to change its policies in order to accommodate such, you know, as you mentioned, an alleged war criminal, is a testament to that, and the pressure which has been put on by members of the public. And not just that, I mean, as you can see here, you know, these people are a very diverse crowd. And one thing I've noticed amongst talking to them, many of them told me that we 20 years ago were either apathetic to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, or even worse, that they were supportive of the Zionist state, but that Israel's aggressions over the last few years, especially in Gaza in 2009, made many of them reconsider. And I think it's that kind of sea change in public opinion which has brought us to the point where, as you mentioned, we were able to get, the campaigners were able to get a decision in the courts against Livni. And as you say, George, you know, if the British government is having to change the law up as it goes along in order to accommodate these alleged war criminals, then it says a lot not only about the British government, but about the state of Israel and its increasing isolation on the world stage.
Isa, you mentioned correctly, of course, that many Jewish people are on the Palestinian side of the road. But I also saw on your pictures there that there are some Nazis on the Israeli side of the road. I see well-known figures on the Nazi side of British politics who have, of course, made this most unholy of alliances with a country calling itself, we don't accept it, of course, but calling itself the Jewish state.
Well, exactly, George. I mean, it's funny, one of them actually took the mic earlier and he was speaking about how dangerous Muslims are to world peace. And he was from one of these far-right groups. Many, as you can see there to the left, I'm just going to get our cameraman to scan over for you. You see many Union Jacks, many of them saying British Christians support Israel unconditionally. And unfortunately, we have seen over the last 5-6 years a coming together of far-right British fascist groups and the far right of the Zionists, the Likudnik kind of supporters of the state of Israel. So very varied alliances on both sides of this divide. I've seen also one or two Ethiopian...
What a pity. We've lost the line and we've missed Zippy Livni, but I do think you got a good picture there. First of all, the tiny, pitiful handful of Zionist cheerleaders on one side of the road, which included a majority of the flag and banner work were the flags and banners of British Nazis. I mean, you really couldn't make this up. The so-called English, so-called Defence League and other far-right Nazi outfits with flags enjoined with the flag of Israel, and the supporters of Israel welcoming these people into their ranks. These people were the supporters, historically, of Hitler's Holocaust, which massacred millions upon millions of Jews. This is how desperate the Zionist state has now become for friends. I tell you, as someone who's been almost 40 years in this struggle, once upon a time, those numbers would have been reversed. There would have been far more, 3, 4, 5 times more supporters of Israel on one side of the road and supporters of the Palestinian people on the other. And that's entirely reversed. And the Zionists are forced to rely on the dregs, the absolute racist, Islamophobic, Nazi dregs of the British far right, the British National Party, the English Defence League, and other organisations like them. So, Isa, thanks for that wonderful report. I'm hoping that we can... Yes, we have. We've got you back. I would like to just ask Isa one more question, if I may, if I can get him up here again on the wall. Perhaps not. Doesn't seem so. That's a pity. Isa is, of course, reporting for Press TV. You'll catch him on the news with a news report in the course of time. Now, the questions are, Zippy Livni, living it up in central London, when will she face justice? Let's recap on what she did. She and Ehud Olmert, who's now serving 6 years behind bars for being a thief and a fraud, they launched so-called Cast-Lead, Operation Cast-Lead, on the Palestinian people besieged in Gaza in 2008, 2009, and they murdered thousands of people. They maimed tens of thousands of people, and they destroyed the homes of more than 60,000 people, and then tightened the siege so that those houses could not be rebuilt, and the people that had not been killed could be bled and weakened still further. Issa's back on the line. Any sign, Issa, of the criminal Livni yet?
War criminal! War criminal! War criminal!
You got me, Issa?
I can't hear the show.
That's a pity. Anyway, we enjoyed the pictures of the Palestinian supporters in very good heart and the embittered and bizarre, grotesque alliance of the British far right and the remaining supporters of Zionism on the other. And 3-1, Issa said the ratio was. Now, I did tell you that we had the comment wall back this evening. I'm very, very glad about that. Let's see what the first email brings us and where it's from. Tessa in London. George Livni will never and can never be arrested. Just like the Bahraini prince that you said you could arrest before the Olympics. It can't happen. Stop getting our hopes high. What would be the grounds and the mechanism anyway? Well, Tessa, you're quite wrong about that. First of all, on the Bahraini prince, it's true I didn't stop him coming to the London Olympics. I bowed before you in penitence for that. But I did try, and it's beginning to work out. This very week, the British government announced that that very same Bahraini prince, the torturer, so-called Olympian, but actual torturer, he's got a gold medal in torturing people on the torture tables of the Bahraini dictatorship. This very week, the government announced that they were reviewing his diplomatic immunity. So it's very likely that that Bahraini prince that I denounced right here from this table 2 years ago is going to have that immunity lifted, and if he comes here, will be open to arrest. And if he is, I promise you, I will try to arrest him. Tessa, I can't promise to succeed in everything that I am determined to do, but I can promise you that I will try to carry out every promise that I make. As for Zippy Livni, we did get a court decision to order a warrant for her arrest, and the British government had to change the law to make that impossible. It is impossible unless the Attorney General of the United Kingdom consents to an effort to bring such a case. So the focus now moves from trying to influence the judges and the judiciary to trying to influence the politicians. And I promise you, if the government ministers ever conclude that there are more votes to be had in lifting the immunity of Zippy Livni than there are to be giving her that immunity, then the calculus will change and we will have triumphed. I'm doing my best to persuade public opinion to do just that. I hope you're also doing so, Tessa. Or are you just cynically writing in the way you have on the comment board this evening? That was the first email. Here's the second one. Let's see where this one is from. Ali in Leicester. Good evening, George. Nice show. Please explain why Syria's victories are not covered like their alleged chemical attacks by the BBC and British media. Is it covering up or selective coverage? Or is it because of something else? Does the BBC care about coverage or controversy? Well, the BBC is the British state broadcaster. It is as I have oftentimes said, BBC, Bush and Blair Corporation. And it follows the line, toes the line doggedly of the British state on any particular issue. The British government doesn't have to issue a notice to tell them to do so. Instinctively, they wheel their guns in the direction that the state wants them to go. There's an old adage, thank God you cannot bribe or twist the average British journalist. But when you see what unbribed they'll do, you realise there's no reason to. There's no reason for the government to give orders to the BBC in order that they turn their guns on this adversary or that, because they instinctively know what their masters want. And their masters wanted the downfall of the regime in Damascus, and they have singularly failed to achieve it. So they're bitter and twisted, and anything that no longer suits the narrative will simply be ignored or turned inside out. Let's take a call. It's been too long. It's Faz in the United Kingdom. Why has the UN Arab envoy for Syria resigned, Faz? What do you say?
Hello, George. Thanks for taking my call.
No, you're welcome.
I just wanted to actually talk about the election in Syria.
Yes.
I heard John Kerry saying today that the election will be unfair because a lot of the Syrians are dispersed and out of the country. So I would really like to see someone beat them in their own games if they put ballot boxes in where the refugees are. Because we know everybody will vote for the right president. What do you think?
Where do you want the ballot boxes put?
Where the refugees are.
Well, if you put the ballot boxes in Turkey, in Jordan, in other places where these refugees have gathered, the ballot would be rigged. The people who have encouraged the war, but who have not done very much for the refugees, would stuff the ballot boxes with anti-Bashar ballots, of course. So no, it is the greatest of pities that so many refugees are living outside of Syria, but they should return back now. We don't want the Syrian people to become like the Palestinian people, a permanent refugee population. And now most of Syria is free from the foreign-backed Takfiri fanatic insurrection. So they can go back. The Syrian government is asking them to come back, and when they come back, of course, they can exercise their vote. I'm perfectly sure that Bashar al-Assad will win a handsome victory in the presidential election. Indeed, I think he would have won a handsome victory, perhaps not quite so handsome, if he'd held this election before all this trouble began. And not to give away too many secrets, I advised him so to do after the fall of Ben Ali, the tyrant in Tunisia. I urged President Bashar al-Assad to go to the ballot box to have a free and fair presidential election, and I said to him that actually I think you would win, and thus you would be the only democratically elected Arab leader in the entire region. And unfortunately, although he was interested in the idea, he would appear to have been unable to proceed with it. And then the foreign-backed mercenaries began to arrive in such enormous numbers, and Syria was set on fire, and more than 100,000 people were slaughtered, and mosques and churches and synagogues actually were destroyed, and the Christian people and other religious minorities in Syria were set upon like wolves by Al-Qaeda and these other fanatic groups paid for by the Persian Gulf satrapies and the British, French and the United States governments. So that was Faz in the UK. I've answered them at some length, but Saeed in Birmingham is coming up after the break. Now, I have to go to a short news bulletin, only lasts 3 minutes. So God willing, I'll be back here 3 minutes from now with the second half of Comment. I promise you, you really will not want to have missed it. Don't go away. Welcome back to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. We're discussing Livni living it up in a central London hotel at £50 a plate for the so-called Jewish, so-called National Fund, which in fact is used to support illegal settlement on Palestinian land. Thus, she's committing a crime in central London this evening, as in fact are every person who paid their £50 to come and hear her speak. She's commissioning a crime under international law, and those aiding and abetting her with their money are participating in that crime. She ought, therefore, to have been arrested on arrival, but she was not, because David Cameron, Nick Clegg, and their motley coalition crew gave her diplomatic immunity from arrest on this occasion. You will recall that in the past we did persuade a judge to issue an arrest warrant for her and Olmert. They both fled the country very quickly indeed, just ahead of the police. But no more. The British government has changed the law and diplomatic immunity has been extended to the war criminal Zippy Livni. So I'm asking Saeed in Birmingham, when will Livni face justice? Saeed, welcome to the show. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks for having me, Brother George Galloway.
You're welcome, brother. Go ahead.
In the name of Allah, and God bless you, and God reward you. Jazakallah khair, brother. Very briefly,
Ameen.
She has got enough blood on her hands, and she known as a war criminal. I am so sad that as a British citizen, 21 years living in this country, seeing that someone like David Cameron, Nick Clegg, as well as Mr. Right Man of the Zionist government, William Hague, giving her safe path and diplomatic permission to come to London. London, a special place for special people, Brother George Galloway. And I reward you again, may Allah bless you, for voting no for Syria war. That was a slap on the face of Zionist government, and soon we will have Christian Britain back. That's all I can say. At the moment, I'm afraid Zionists control British politics. But I believe, just like Russia and part of Middle East, a true British Christian will come back to life, and we, as Muslims and Christians, will be brothers and sisters like back to days, and we will tell Zionists, no, we cannot accept killing women and children yesterday, and today come to London with a very welcoming Union flag and British flag and Zionist flag.
I mean, Saeed, but just take account of this, that those Union flags were not being flown by the British government or the British state. They weren't prepared to do that. They weren't rolling out the red carpet for her. They merely made it possible for the Zionist movement to roll out the red carpet for her. These Union flags and Cross of St. George, how ironic that the racist, fascist, knuckle-dragging, Islamophobic creeps of the British far right wave the flag of St. George, a Turkish Muslim who is buried in either Jordan or other parts of the Muslim world. I say other parts because there are many different people claiming that he's buried there. And I've visited the grave of St. George in 3 different countries. But the point is, Said, it's the gutters, it's the dregs of British right-wing fascism that's waving those Union Jacks alongside the flag of what they call Israel in central London this evening. Said, thanks for that call, and thank you indeed for your very, very kind remarks. You know, I'm so happy to have my comment wall back. I'm going to go for a 3rd email. Let's see what it says. This one from Michael in Hull. George, interesting that Olmert gets arrested for a money-related offence by Israel, but Livni, a woman who has caused innocent children to die in the war and the ongoing hell, the so-called Justice Minister, are you kidding me, is not only still free, she now gets diplomatic immunity. Will you, as one of the few conscious MPs that we have left, at least mention in the Commons, are you not allowed to do that? Well, Michael, thank you for that. There's not much that I accept I'm not allowed to do in the House of Commons, but I have been actually extremely busy outside of the House of Commons this week, following the attack on the Bradford mosques, where some of these knuckle-drugging fascists who invaded our mosques in Bradford, 10 fascists invaded 10 mosques in a single afternoon on Saturday, and the British government has yet to say a thing about it. And I had to leave Parliament and go straight to Bradford to visit the mosques and pay my respects and try to push the police into the right kind of proactive activity. I'm glad to say we have had some success on all those counts. Let me talk now to Imran in Manchester on the Syria question. Why has the UN Arab envoy for Syria resigned? Imran, welcome.
Hiya.
Hi.
Are you okay?
Yes, by the grace of God, I'm good. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I actually wanted to make a comment about the Livni issue instead of Syria, if that's okay.
Okay, go on.
Okay. Yeah. I actually read an article on Guardian a couple of days ago. It was a long article, and in the middle part of the article, there was a clause which came from our British Prime Minister. Mr. Cameron said when he was in opposition, he actually pressed to the in the party who was in power at that time, which is Labour Party, to make sure that there is some kind of change can be made in the system so that the Israeli diplomats can come and be welcomed, in UK, despite whatever they do, despite killing thousands of people, whatever it is, they can come. And when he came in the power, he actually changed that law, and he is actually welcoming them people. I just wanted to know, because I feel by saying that, is he not actually promoting this killing? Is he not actually telling Israeli people, go and kill as much as you can, we will support you, we will welcome you in our country.
I'll tell you exactly what has happened, Imran, and it happens time and time again. There is one law, literally, one law for Israel and another law for everybody else. This act of Parliament that Cameron forced through with the support of Ed Miliband's Labour Party, so all three of the same cheeks, of the same backside in British politics, voted for this change in the law. They rushed it through specifically to deal with these 2 Israeli former ministers, one of whom, Olmert, is now behind bars as a thief. He's got 6 years for being a thief. The Prime Minister of Israel was a thief, Thief, and now he's in jail. But Livni was a murderer, and she's in central London this evening with impunity, with diplomatic immunity. And I say shame on the politicians that made that possible. And I hope everyone watching this in Britain will remember this next Thursday when they go to vote. Don't reward people who have brought shame on our country by changing our own law so that Livni could not face justice. Imran, you may recall that the former Chilean dictator, Augusto Pinochet, was arrested in England and held for some weeks whilst the case went through consideration. And the Labour minister, Jack Straw, he about whom much more later, Jack Straw allowed Pinochet to go free. But at least they did arrest him. At least they did hold him and question him. This now can never happen to Livni as a result of the law that was passed. So, Imran, do you think she'll ever face justice anywhere?
I mean, we talk about human rights, we talk about equal opportunity. What is all this then? Is it just for the show?
Yeah, it's just cosmetic. We are not so much a democracy as a hypocrisy, as I keep saying, Imran. Thanks very much indeed for the call. Let's go all the way to Canada, talk to one of the wisest men in the hemisphere, Gary in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Gary, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, George. I couldn't resist, especially when the comment team phoned me about this subject. It's bad enough what happened with the British system intervening to give Livni a pass, to violate all the norms of this Rome Statute on war criminals in order to come and participate in one of these fundraising dinners. But I live in a country which has actually gone one further. Canada also is part of this Rome Statute, this so-called general international law regarding pursuing war criminals.
Yeah.
And Canada has a very interesting exception. The exception that Canada's law has is that Israeli officials and individuals who go into the occupied territories and turn up later on in Canada are absolutely excluded from being considered war criminals. Why? Because the version of the Rome Statute that the Canadian government passed said that voluntary exchanges of population are perfectly legal. So this insanity, one way or another, whether you have a special pass being issued by the British Attorney General or the complete mashing up of an international statute, as Canada did, one way or another, there seems to be this determination to give these people the free pass they need to carry on. So
Indeed.
My response and the response of some other people I work with has been, for years we have this problem how to refer to the so-called State of Israel. And it's occurred to me, as these people diminish in size, diminish in authority, and diminish in credibility on the world scale, we should stop calling it the State of Israel. We should have stopped doing that long ago. But I don't even think we should bother calling it the Zionist entity. I think we should call it the Tel Aviv Authority. And I think that's the deserved kind of contempt that they have earned.
Absolutely. Gary in Halifax, I mean to that. Thanks very much for the call. Let's go back to the comment wall. I'm so happy I'm playing with my comment wall again. I can't stay away from it. Let's take another email. It's been so long. Leila in Madrid in Spain. Hello, George. I'm Leila, and I'd like to thank you for the show. It's great. Please visit us in Spain. We have many problems here also. Indeed. What is your opinion of Syria, and when will the bombs stop in Syria? Thank you. Thank you very much, Leila. I would love to come and speak in Madrid. Somebody has to organize it, though. I am going to Vienna, God willing, tomorrow, and I'll be having a press conference and giving a speech in Vienna tomorrow, maybe of some significance. It's about Egypt and the situation there now. But when will the bombs stop in Syria? It'll be a long time before they stop absolutely, but they will begin to stop, and they will begin to lose their potency, these takfiris, from now on in, because the tide has turned. Syria has won. The Al-Qaeda and other fanatics have lost. And although there will be a long tail to this conflict, we are indeed in the tail end of it. Niall's always worth hearing. He's in Dublin. Niall, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Welcome back, Brother George. It's good to be back on the show again.
Thank you.
Yes, just in relation to Zippy Livni, George, I think this highlights the whole duplicity and hypocrisy of the moral aggrandizement of the great and the good. I'm talking about the powers that be, Britain, France, the United States, towards their allies and satrapies like Israel and others. George, Zippy Livni, she won't be the first and she won't be the last war criminal to be granted immunity and be granted the freedom of London and to walk around unmolested. All you have to do, George, is just look at what happened to General Augusto Pinochet. Another great example. When he turned up in London back in 1998-99, nobody could lay a finger on him. Bizarre. It was horrific. And another good example, George, comes from the former Yugoslavia, where you have the Prime Minister, so-called Prime Minister of Kosovo, Hashim Taci, and his number two, Ajim Ceku, both generals in the KLA, the same organisation responsible for the ethnic cleansing of 250,000 Serbs, Romani, Muslims and Jews from Kosovo, and they're allowed to walk around with no one allowed to touch a finger on it because, George, like Ariel Sharon, like General Augusto Pinochet, and now Zippy Livni, they killed and they murdered for the United States of America and the New World Order.
Well, Niall, I was filming outside the International Criminal Court in The Hague just last week for the Tony Blair documentary film that, as you know, I'm making. And it was dubbed up, it was locked up, there was nobody around, there's nothing happening at the International Criminal Court. But I made the point outside that it's unlikely that we'll manage to get Tony Blair, and the same would go for Zippy Livni, into the International Criminal Court because, well, they're just not black enough now. Every single person who has been tried and convicted in the ICC has been a black African. In fact, they've even got signs up for the Sierra Leone, full-time signs. There's a full-time Sierra Leone car park. There's a full-time car park for somewhere else in Africa. These criminals who look like you and me, they never face international justice. That's my view now. Thanks very much indeed for the call. We are asking if Livni will face justice, and we're asking what is the resignation of Lakhdar Brahimi as the United Nations Arab League envoy to Syria. What does it actually mean? Let's go back to Canada and talk to Doreen. Doreen, welcome back to the show. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, George. Thank you for giving me some time.
No, wonderful.
You're a great man. What would we do without you? You kind of man in this world.
Thank you,
Gary
Doreen.
Gary from the East Coast is absolutely right, and I'm on the West Coast. And our government has definitely been hijacked by the Zionists. And now we are not allowed to say anything about them because then they keep making new rules. And that's what you were saying about this Libby one. The government makes new rules to overcome the ones that are set into place, into the law.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they say, we better make another law so we can keep these people quiet. But I'm not as on the international scene as Gary is, but I'm just a grandmother that sees a 6-year-old child in Palestine arrested and screaming bullied by an Israeli soldier, and I can't stand to see that kind of thing and have John Baird out there in the American APEC giving out things like Iran is a threat to Canada. I think he's a threat to the world, especially when he comes out and says support Israel. I'm a Canadian and I will not support arresting children and bullying them. 6 years old screaming. What kind of a world and people in Israel allow that to go on.
Well, Doreen, there's no such thing as just a grandmother, and you're definitely not just a grandmother. You are a Canadian hero, and we're very happy to have heard from you this evening. Let's go to Billy in Libya on the Syria question. Billy, go ahead, sir.
Yes, hello?
Yes, Billy, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, hello, George.
Yes, go on.
Hello?
You're on the air, sir.
Yes, I'm ringing from Libya, which is a country which might be breaking apart in the near future, or it might not. By and large, the carnage level is quite a lot lower than the carnage level on the roads. But some years ago, I was in Erbil, which is in Iraqi Kurdistan, and very prominently displayed in quite a few places, is a map of Greater Kurdistan.
Yes? Oh, what a pity. That was sounding very interesting indeed. Billy, do try and get back to us. I'm all ears for the map you saw in Erbil. Is Billy back on the line? No, unfortunately, he is not. It was a bad line to begin with, but it was a fascinating little nibble, a very, very important subject. So I hope we can get back to that. Let's see if there's any emails for the comment wall. You may know I've got my comment wall back. I've been asking for it. And I want to incorporate your tweets also in the weeks to come. Because, well, this is 2014. I myself passed the number of 175,000 followers on Twitter just this very day. And I only started it 2 years ago. So I have a direct audience of 175,000, and you can follow me at George Galloway. But you should also follow Comment and follow Press TV, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Because these are very rapid ways to get round the efforts that are being made by various governments, my own in Britain, not the least of them, to try and hold back the 21st century, to try and censor what you can see and hear from us. And it just won't work. And one very good way of making sure it doesn't is to be really tooled up. I think we've got Billy, but we've only got 1 minute. Billy, be quick, my dear, and give me your one big point. Hello? We didn't get Billy. He was just about to tell us. It's like a detective story. He saw a map in Erbil on the Iraqi-Kurdish border, and guess what was on that map, he said. Maybe next week we'll be able to tell you. So as I was saying, follow us all on Twitter and on Facebook. And if you have enjoyed the show this week, come back next week and bring someone else with you. The viewing figures for this show and for Press TV in general continue to grow and grow. And that's because we try to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We are, I believe, the voice of the voiceless. So, it's been marvellous for me, George Galloway, on Comment, wishing you a good day.
Hello, if you just comment your name and the place you left that number. And just make sure that your television volume's set to 0. So 0. Can you spell your name for me? Yeah, I know. You redirect me put through the phone number and then